Live from our studios here in Kukumimle, this is Joy Newsroom right here in Accra, broadcasting to all 16 regions on the Joy News channel, on Facebook, X Spaces, and on YouTube. My name is Sweetie Abochi. Our headlines this afternoon: Africa Education Watch urges urgent reforms and stakeholder forum to fix Ghana school feeding program. Director of Communications for Opposition New Patriotic Party, Richard Ahiagba, attributes recent ECG financial losses to what he describes as, quote, egregious inefficiencies and unfavorable power purchase agreements signed by the previous NDC government.
PPE, come, bring your equipment, generate power for us, we'll provide the fuel for you. And they just bill us. I mean, I don't know who does that.
Details of these stories and many more in this one-hour package with me, Sweetie Abochi. Please stay. Details in a bit. This is Joy News, independent, fearless, and credible. For our first story, Africa Education Watch is calling for urgent reforms to make the Ghana school feeding program more efficient and accountable. This follows ongoing efforts by the Ministry of Gender, Children and Social Protection to improve the program, which currently supports millions of basic school pupils across the country. Among its key recommendations, the Education Policy Think Tank is urging the ministry to convene a national forum to engage stakeholders on sustainable solutions. And they put out a statement that will be on your screens in a bit. And according to that statement, they have made some observations and are making some recommendations. And among the key recommendations they're making is to expedite the decentralized procurement of caterers and contract management under the Ghana school feeding program, and ensure only financially capable and technically competent caterers are engaged by local government. They're asking that the ministry convene a national forum to elicit stakeholder opinions and seek relevant buy-in on strategies for program reform and improvement. They go on to ask that they liaise with the audit service to audit the current beneficiary data under the Ghana school feeding program, implement a digital tracking system to monitor program delivery, while local governments institute participatory monitoring systems involving district assembly officials. And they go on to say that they're asking for a collaboration with the ministries of finance and local government to facilitate fiscal decentralization of the Ghana school feeding program to local government. And in fact, the statement is on your screen, and I want to get more details on this. Let's speak to the Executive Director of Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, for more insights. Sir, thank you so much for joining us on Newsroom. Now, I understand you're asking that the ministry convene a national forum to elicit stakeholder opinions. Does that mean that they haven't engaged stakeholders yet?
Well, when you are reforming, aiming to improve, it's important that you seek the buy-in and support of key stakeholders. And so it is in the interest of the ministry to ensure that that buy-in, is secured from stakeholders. Everyone has a role to play. Civil society organizations have key roles to play in monitoring the program, including the media. And so the extent to which these actors that have critical roles to play in efficiency, effectiveness, and accountability of the program are involved in these reforms would go a long way to ensure that the reforms succeed. And that is why we are calling for that conversation.
Right. And this request for the audit service to audit the current beneficiaries seek to suggest that you have some concerns. Please expatiate for us.
A 2023 audit report of the Director General established that amounts in excess of 2 million Ghana cedis were paid wrongfully to caterers by way of paying them more than they should have been paid, or paying them for days they did not cook, and also payments made to caterers who were not contracted, who were not under contract at all. And the Auditor General recommended that the School Feeding Program Secretariat recovers the money. We don't have any information since then. So we've called on the Ministry of Gender to ensure that measures are put in place to collect all the money and update the public accordingly. It is important to note that all the reform recommendations we are making to the ministry, when properly implemented, including the digital tracking system to monitor the implementation at the local level, etc., will ensure that in future the school feeding program does not make overpayments, does not pay people who are not on contract, and then also does not pay caterers for days that they did not cook. When you decentralize the Ghana school feeding program, what you do is that you just don't allow the local government to procure caterers who are competent and not just politically aligned. Also, you give the local government the capacity to finance the program from within. And that's why we have asked the Ministry of Local Government, the Ministry of Finance, to work together and ensure that as caterers are being procured at the local level, which is the first good step in decentralizing the program, attempts are made to also decentralize the budget of the Ghana School Feeding Program, such that the Ministry of Finance will release disbursement straight to the local governments, so that payment will be a function between local governments and then caterers. In that case, it's easier for local governments to verify work done, do the necessary due diligence before payment is done, while the school feeding program coordinates at the national level to ensure that there is quality assurance and compliance.
You mentioned that you had engaged the ministry. Prior to this statement, what response did you get when you tabled these concerns before them?
We are told that the ministry has developed guidelines working with local governments to recruit caterers, which is good, because we've always called for a decentralized recruitment and contract management for caterers. But we were not happy that the ministry truncated contracts 2 days to the reopening of basic schools. Because the school feeding program is a catalyst for retention in schools in poor areas. I mean, in areas where poverty is endemic, children are doing 5 to 10 kilometers a day to school. And so the absence of the school feeding program means that because children cannot return, go home and have lunch and return to school, it's affecting, punctuality, it's affecting retention in schools in the 1 week that schools have been reopened. And so we believe that the Ministry of Gender would have done this recontracting better if it had waited and did the recontracting in the month of August and September, which is a long vacation. And so we have advised the ministry that moving forward, we should be mindful of how we truncate contracts and then the period that we re-engage, so that it doesn't, unduly affect the educational outcomes of the Ghana School Feeding program.
Right. Thank you so much for spending some time with us this afternoon. That's Kofi Asare, the Executive Director of Africa Education Watch. In other stories, the Member of Parliament for Sagnarugu, Ata Issa, has established an educational fund worth 800,000 Ghana cedis to support brilliant but needy students in the constituency. The fund will provide 200,000 Ghana cedis annually to benefit around 185 students. Ata Issa announced this initiative during the release of support to the first 50 beneficiaries. Here's more.
The Sagnarugu constituency is largely rural by nature, where many residents are peasant farmers. Therefore, it can be challenging for parents to support their children's education. Recognizing this challenge, the MP Ata Issa established the Education Fund to support the needy students. At the launch, he emphasized that the initiative not only covers students' fees, but also complementing with infrastructure development.
We instituted the MPs Educational Fund that seeks to help mitigate some of these challenges that we see in the government existing scholarship programs. This is a 4-year program. It's an 800,000 Ghana cedis educational fund that seeks to pay for about 185 students annually, meaning that the April window will spend 100,000 cedis paying school fees. Then the August-September window will also come with 100,000 Ghana cedis. We are doing it through increasing infrastructure development. We believe that the impact of financial support on academic success is huge, as it benefits the students in many areas, including increased access, reduced dropout rates, improve academic focus.
The chairman of the Sanergu MP Education Committee outlined the process in selecting the students.
From the 12 electoral areas, we had a total of 265 admission letters. That was not all. There was a criteria that we have to use to be able to get the most qualified students. We had a total of 165 of these students qualifying for this award. We had to put them into two groups, leaving them window 1 and window 2, of which the first window is always going to be open within April and May each year.
The chief of Sanergu, Nabapur Ambassador Abdullah Yakubu, commended the MP for the initiative he said was the first of its kind in the constituency.
This is his widow's mite in contributing within his own little corner to help bridge the gap between education in the north and the south. Commendations go to him for the mere thought of this, the first in our constituency and in our traditional area.
Two of the beneficiaries who said they were owing school fees said it will help them pay their full fees.
It will help me to make some payments that I'm owing in the school. And also it will help reduce the burden my father is having towards my education.
I am owing I made a part payment of 1,000 Ghana cedis and I was supposed to pay 2,035 Ghana cedis. I can use the money he gave me to complete the fees.
Now, Director of Communications for the opposition New Patriotic Party, Richard Ahiagba, has attributed the recent financial losses of the Electricity Company of Ghana to what he describes as, quote, egregious and, quote, inefficiencies and unfavorable power purchase agreements signed by the previous National Democratic Congress government. Speaking on Newsfile, Mr. Ahiagba criticized the NDC for entering into agreements that obligated the state to provide fuel to independent power producers without cost recovery mechanisms, a decision he labeled as sinful and economically damaging.
But you know, I think that, yes, so one of the problems is inefficiency. But the other bit is pricing, which has been talked about widely, that it reflects cost of production. And also, I argue that it's leadership, but when it comes to the NDC, it is contractual and is politics. You see, I have not come to settle in my mind why we signed a power purchase agreement where we agree with people that would provide them fuel, okay, which is not to be recovered in terms of the pricing. And that all you would do as an IPP, come, bring your equipment, generate power for us, we'll provide the fuel for you, and then you just bill us. I mean, I don't know who does that. It's sinful. In fact, if I remember, I think the World Bank commentary on this matter is to the extent that it's expensive and it's wrong to sign such power purchase agreement. That's the problem. That, for me, is the problem. Take away the inefficiencies of ECG and the rest of the matters that we've talked about. That is a problem.
Yeah, the World Bank did fault them. And when you came in 2016, this became a major thing in 2017. Yeah. You set up a committee, you remember Philip Addison and the rest of them, all of them there. So should we still be talking about this in 2025?
Yes. Yeah, we should be. But you see, the MPP government did what it could to deal with some of the elements of the contract, which is to the extent of the take-or-pay element of it. But this aspect of fuel is entrenched.
In other news, co-founder and executive partner of Arthur Energy Africa, Engineer Harriet Emisarthur, who also spoke on Newsfile, says Ghana's recurring power sector crisis is due to long-standing inaction and poor accountability rather than solely financial constraints.
What is happening to us is to be expected. If we continue to run the sector as we're running, then this should be our expectation. I mean, I think what we see as what we classify as a looming power crisis is not looming. It's been coming, and it comes a day at a time. We consistently have not done what we needed to do, and that's why we're here today. Now, the debt is also increasing because we continue, as has been said, I heard the previous speaker talk about the losses in the sector, the operational inefficiencies and so forth. And so that is just a cumulative effect that occasionally we see as our power is going off tomorrow. Then that's when we panic and we begin to do stuff. I think that if you look at what has been happening over decades now, the problems we're facing with our power sector is a combination of inaction on our part as Ghanaians.
It's a money problem. Did you say inaction? Is it not just a money problem?
It's not just a money problem.
Okay.
It's not just a money problem because when you buy a commodity and you sell it and you do not collect from the person you sold it to, then you don't expect to break even. I mean, maybe it's only in our power sector that we expect that if we don't account for the energy we bought, we can still somehow magically make the books work.
Meanwhile, economist Professor Godfred Bokin has called for urgent structural reforms and private sector participation to fix the energy crisis faced by the country.
I think we are at a point where I believe we should all support government in some kind of a private sector participation in the downstream distribution. And I think that may be different from saying we are selling ECG. Government can still be the sole shareholder of ECG, but we should be able to invite private sector in the distribution of power and collection, which will also require the private sector to bring in capital and also bring in private sector efficiency in all of that. But on this current model, I don't think that it is sustainable. And I believe that there are structural reforms under the IMF-supported program with respect to how ECG ought to be managed. And there are clear indicators that government has to meet as part of our ongoing IMF-supported program. I know Cabinet has to take a decision on ECG in terms of private sector participation, and I believe that government must communicate this clearly to Ghanaians. That is different from selling ECG as a company. ECG can still be a holding company, wholly owned by government of Ghana, but I think we should be able to invite private sector participation. As always, the staff are against it. They don't want to hear it. Change will be resisted because people want to preserve their comfort zone.
Moving on, the Ajura Yi Highway is riddled with potholes and plagued with armed robberies. The stretch now has become a symbol of despair for residents and traders. With accidents claiming lives and criminals exploiting the chaos, local leaders are issuing desperate pleas for government intervention. And Asabit tells how this crumbling road is endangering lives, strangling the economy, and testing the resolve of communities pushed to the brink.
This is what remains of a road meant to connect communities. For years, neglect has turned the Ajura Yi Highway into a crumbling obstacle course. But the dangers here go far deeper than cracked asphalt. This road has become a breeding ground for tragedy, where every journey risks lives, livelihoods, and safety. Locals here say this stretch is cursed. Potholes swallow tires and armed robbers stalk the shadows. Traders drivers and farmers now face a green calculus: risk the road or lose their income.
Our road isn't the best. We can't talk about it. We have a very bad road from here to Kumasi. You can't use the road at night because of the robbery cases that are ongoing. Just because the road is not more trouble.
Member of Parliament for Atewa Mountain constituency, Honorable Sanja Nanja, laments the socio-economic impact of the road to the local economy.
It is even the source of the armed robbery here. It's one of the causes. Because the road, if you observe, wherever there's an armed robbery on the road is where the potholes are. Because when the cars get there, they cannot speed. So the armed robbers take advantage of that. And not only at Atewa Mountain, we have about 5-6 big markets around us. You go to Kejeji, come to Kwame Danso, come to Atewa itself, Amantin, Prime, Yeji, they all have big markets. And it is affecting the local economy. Because people are afraid to come and apply their trade here. People are afraid to come and patronize the markets.
Brunei's Regional Minister Francis also admits the road's decay has outpaced solutions. He laments how 7 lives were lost through accidents due to the deplorable nature of the road.
The effect is that because of the number of potholes that we have on the road, it has increased robbery cases. So many robbery cases. Additionally, road accident. Last week, because of the nature of the road, it claimed about 7 lives on this road. So please, all these are issues that we are not comfortable with.
While pleading for emergency repairs, the minister is however deploying Operation Shield patrols, checkpoints and plans to recruit more security personnel into the region to help arrest the situation.
One of the security issues I'm putting in place is that as I speak now, Yeji requested for one of their cars from the region. I have given directives that the regional commander should, with immediate effect, release the vehicle to Yeji division so that they can get more vehicles to prowl the road. In addition, we have to increase the number of police people that we have. As I speak, I have the data. We know the police strength here highly inadequate. So we are going to make sure that the minister, appropriate minister, will help us get us more men so that monitoring will be enhanced.
Night falls brings new dangers here. While leaders debate solutions, locals pray for dawn and deliverance. For now, survival on this highway demands luck, vigilance and hope. Anna Sabit, Joy News, Atebubu.
From Atebubu, let's go to the Western region where hypertension cases are on the rise, with new data showing an increase from 2.96% in 2023 to 3.11% this year. As the world marked World Hypertension Day, health authorities in the region are screening residents to curb the silent killer in an initiative dubbed Measure 1 Million. Inathalia Kwansa has more in this report.
In the western region of Ghana, a silent threat. It doesn't shout, it doesn't always show, but it is claiming lives every single day. This threat is hypertension.
In the Western region, the incidence of hypertension increased from 2.96% in 2023 to 3.11% as at the end of 2024. Ladies and gentlemen, these proportions we are reporting on are based on the number of clients who reported to our various facilities to have their blood pressures checked. Hypertension can present in varying forms of fatal complications.
Worldwide, over 1 billion people live with hypertension. Every year, more than 10 million lives are lost, more than all infectious diseases combined. And here in the Western region, the numbers are rising.
It's on this premise that the Western Regional Health Directorate of the Ghana Health Service has chosen to deepen awareness on hypertension highlighting the need for every adult to check his or her blood pressure from time to time and to know the consequences of unmanaged and poorly managed hypertension. The 2025 World Hypertension Day celebration has been extended to a one-month campaign dubbed Measure 1 Million. We are screening 1 million people in Ghana in the month of May for hypertension. In the Western region, we are poised as a service to screen 66,000 people for hypertension. So far, our cherished healthcare workers have screened over 8,000 people in our region for hypertension.
You don't need a hospital card. You don't need insurance. Just walk into any wellness clinic across the hospitals. Screenings are free. And if you are diagnosed, quality care awaits.
I call on all citizens, particularly those aged 18 years and above, to take advantage of these screening exercises and know their blood pressure status. Hypertension is a silent killer, as we were told earlier, but it can be managed with early detection and proper treatment. By participating in this screening exercise, we can identify those at risk and provide them with the necessary support and guidance to manage their condition.
Hypertension is silent, but together we are raising our voices. Measure it, control it, and live long.
Try as much as possible. If you have any issue with your medicine, walk into your pharmacy nearby, ask of the pharmacist, talk with the pharmacist, and the pharmacist, together with your doctor, will be able to help change the medicine for you, and so that you can get the medicines that will prevent, not give you those problems that you're experiencing, and you'll be better. Again, there are others too. They have gone to churches, they have gone to programs, and they've told them that they should stop taking their medicine and believe in faith. Yes, faith works, but they will also believe that once you have been identified, you have to combine the two.
The European Union is seeking to equip health practitioners with the resources and knowledge to prevent an epidemic of non-communicable diseases in sub-Saharan Africa. The project also intends to reduce the disease burden on the already ailing economy of countries in the sub-region and ensure a healthy citizenry. Fred Kwame brings us a detailed report from a consortium meeting of the Train the Trainer workshop held at the University of Health and Allied Sciences.
Sub-Saharan Africa has been identified with increasing cases of non-communicable diseases and child health issues. This development is largely attributed to lifestyle among other factors and identified to burden the health sector in the region. It was in this vein that the European Union initiated the capacity strengthening of transdisciplinary education for non-communicable diseases in West Africa project. As part of the project, 6 courses would be developed and embedded into the curriculum of the University of Health and Allied Sciences, University of Ghana, Kwame Nkrumah University of Science and Technology, and the University of the Gambia. Dr. Kirsten Clipston Grubish, who is the Vice Chair of the Global Health Center for Health Sciences and Primary Care, is the facilitator of the project.
An important part of that is, of course, also to look at financing, at health financing, and it's also then part of the courses. And as we are having so many intervention programs that are already taking place or that are planned, it's very important to also contextualize and to look at how can we make sure they are really reaching everybody and they are also then achieving that disease is much better controlled. And as part of that, we are all very interested, of course, also using modern technology. So an important aspect and also of those courses is to specifically look at how can we use modern technology.
Professor Paul Anuma of the University of Health and Allied Sciences shed light on the short and long-term goals of the project.
And the first and the most important is to build capacity. And so we target to train 50 teachers at higher education level as a first step. And these teachers would then also train others. Not only that, we are also introducing an innovative teaching and learning strategy. That is what we call the challenge-based learning. Thirdly, ultimately, the plan of our universities is to harmonize the way that we train people. And then ultimately, we're going to embed these short courses into our existing Master of Public Health programs across our universities.
Because NCD, only one healthcare professional or one discipline cannot take care of that. It must be the nurses, the doctors, the public health officers, the physiotherapists, and other cadres of within the healthcare workforce, right? And then we are also collaborating with Ghana simply because we believe that we are having the same problems, having the same issues. So coming together, collaborating together, and then working towards the capacity building for NCD with, in these two countries is very important.
Fred Kwame Asai, Joy News.
You're watching Joy Newsroom on the Joy News channel. We take a quick break. When we return, more news stories for you. Please stay. Thanks for your patience. This is still Joy Newsroom, and let's move on with the bulletin. Scientists at the Crops Research Institute of the Council of Scientific and Industrial Research are finalizing a project to introduce mechanization into Ghana's plantain sector. The research under the mechanization and work in agroecological transition is in response to calls by farmers to alleviate the drudgery in plantain farming and also reduce the use of herbicide that pose health and environmental risks. Now, the project also seeks to maximize production to halt the perennial challenge of plantain scarcity, ensuring food security. More in this report.
For years, consumers and traders of plantain have endured the annual cycle of plantain scarcity, which usually comes with its exorbitant costs. The perennial situation has been attributed to the lack of mechanized systems, including irrigation and farming implements to support an all-year-round production and eliminate drudgery in farming. Regional engineer at the Ministry of Food and Agriculture in the Ashanti region, Engineer Clara Dakom, highlights challenges associated with the absence of mechanized tools in Ghana's farming space.
They are not also able to do a lot of or a bigger acreage so that we will get a lot of them, because you know for pricing is demand and supply. So if there are a lot in the system, the prices will go down. But because we don't have machinery to do expansion, we are just doing small acreages, and then what comes out is what we buy. So it's helping the farmers not to get a lot of money with the expansion and also with the quality, because if you have machines, you are not going to add chemicals. If you have machine to do the plowing, the harrowing and that stuff, we need that, because if the land preparation is good, you get a higher yield.
The Crops Research Institute hosted a 2-day national workshop to expose farmers and stakeholders in the plantain industry to some handy motorized tools for weeding and digging. The project, which commenced in 2023, afforded local farmers the opportunity to utilize tools such as the augers for digging and motorized weeders. Project coordinator Dr. Natsin Aram Amengo disclosed plans are underway to include local fabricators to develop tools after the project's completion.
Farmers appreciate the two machines. They believe that it is good for their cause, but there are issues with acquisition. Where can we get it at an affordable price? Then there are issues also with maintenance. Who will maintain it for us when it breaks down? Then we also went a step further to look out if we could more or less like get local fabricators and other people in the mechanization chain to either manufacture parts or manufacture them in whole, so that they wouldn't have to buy them from outside at higher prices.
The project is being implemented in other West African countries like Benin and Ivory Coast, with opportunities for cross-border tool adoptions. Pauline Pigot is the international coordinator for the Megawatt project.
There are a lot of ideas that get exchanged, and for example, we've seen that the way the auger was, the frame for the auger was built here, is now adopted in Benin. So that's very interesting to see this kind of dynamics, and but of course. For all the situations, there are some differences, and the farms are different. The farmer doesn't want the same thing, so all those two.
For Joy News, my name is Emmanuel Bright Kweku.
Let's stay on agricultural innovation, and 60 farmers in the Ejiso municipality of the Shanti region have been equipped with environmentally friendly mushroom production skills. The workshop, spearheaded by the Crops Research Institute of the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research, is part of the revenue diversification pathways in Africa through the Bio-Based and Circular Agricultural Innovations Project. The project seeks to increase the productivity, income and economic opportunities of farmers in arid and semi-arid regions of sub-Saharan Africa. We'll tell you more in this report.
Mushroom production involves systematically cultivating fungi for various uses, including food and medicine. The two-day intensive training empowered farmers with the knowledge and skills to leverage technology for mushroom production, enhancing both their income and food consumption. Director of the CSIR-CRI, Professor Maxwell Dakwasante, stated that the training focuses on sustainable development, integrating scientific and indigenous knowledge in production.
It is about sustainable production, and what that means is that we use both scientific and indigenous knowledge to produce sustainably. And then, as much as possible, we don't waste anything. So we call something the circular economy, where if you, for example, in the fish ponds that you saw there, the water is not wasted. It's used to grow crops. Okay, the waste materials at home is turned into compost, so that we minimize the use of chemicals and chemical fertilizers, so that we're able to produce sustainably, and then the environment will also not be affected. So specifically, today's training is about mushroom farming, and the farmers will be trained to become very competent in mushroom production, and then they can set up their own mushroom production facilities.
Principal investigator for the Ibagri project, engineer Dr. Shadrach Amponsa, says the mushroom production is a technological way to produce mushrooms using bio-based materials like waste.
So technologies that uses biological based systems where we have a closed loop, nothing is waste. That is what we are teaching these farmers, and that's what this project stands for. So what we are doing is the oyster shell mushroom that can easily be cultured once you get the right training. And the farmers have shown so much interest. base. We all know the major ingredient for this oyster shell mushroom production is the sawdust. And the sawdust, we know, is mostly burnt in the environment, and then it creates a lot of nuisance, air pollution and all that, disturbing the environment. So one of the focus of the Agri project is that we will reduce waste and reuse waste and then recycle.
Dr. Natson Eira Mamengo, a senior research scientist, urged the youth to participate in the agriculture sector to boost their living standards.
What I want to say is that mushroom production itself is a very viable source of income. And as much as we are using our biomass that we would have thrown away as waste and converting them into money, one, we are making our farmers better off. So the youth, the old, but especially the youth who are interested in agriculture can turn to this, because they can gain as much as, let's say, about 10 to 20,000 cedis a month from this mushroom production.
David Opogo's report for Joy News.
Away from that, the 2,000-year group of Aokuari School has invested more than 1 million Ghana cedis in a transformative landscaping project to enhance the school's environment. The initiative has introduced paving systems through open-cell pavers that incorporate grass growth connecting to dormitories and halls to improve accessibility. The project will address land erosion of the school's compound and open drainage systems to curb health and environmental risks they pose to the students. We'll tell you more in this report.
The Aokuari School in the Ashanti region accommodates about 4,000 students. As part of their 25th anniversary, the 2,000-year group of WAS, described as AY, has unveiled a landscape project to improve the conditions of commuting and beautification in the school. The landscaping project, costing 1 million cedis, include laying of ground pipes to connect running water, paving systems that incorporate grass growth through open cell pavers connecting to some dormitories and halls. Vice President of the AY Group, Katechie Owusu John, indicated the gesture will improve the school's environment and make it conducive for students to use.
It's a ritual that every year group, after completion, 5 years, 10 years, 15, 20, 25, you do something for the school. Very terrible, that is the word to use. Very terrible. You could see the headmaster was talking about it. When it rains, we can't even pass that area. But now, the place is well defined. We have the curves defined, the grassing defined. And in fact, you can at least sit at the place and walk through without even touching where the green paths are.
This will improve movements of students.
It will really improve movement, organize the area, and then also for beautification too as well.
The 25th anniversary and homecoming of the AY Group was commemorated with a colorful event that assembled management, staff, students and students of WAS. The event was themed Developing 21st Century Talent, Integrating Digital and Social Skills to emphasize the importance of adapting to new trends in the education system. Minister for Works and Housing, Katechie Kenneth Ejay, commended the alumni and stakeholders for their support to improve teaching and learning in the school.
The active support of all stakeholders, educational institutions, parents, alumni associations, the private sector, and civil society is indispensable. I am delighted to learn that Katechie Johnny Loede, Z7, will soon present the school with 107 laptops and refurbish its ICT center. This is a shining example of leadership in action and the influential role alumni can play in shaping the future of education. I also commend many year-old schools' investments in digital infrastructure have contributed meaningfully to the transformation of our alma mater. Let us continue to harness our collective strengths to advance the cause of education.
Dean, Office of the International Relations at the University of Cape Coast, Katechie Professor Samuel Bett Bwedikusi, called for constant maintenance of new projects for prolonged use. Teachers and students who exhibited exceptional roles in the development of the school were awarded. The AZ Group was officially handed the baton to take over from the AY Group for the 74th anniversary celebrations in 2027. Clinton Yeboah's reports for
Take another break. When we return, we'll bring you some world news. Do log on to myjoyonline.com. It's your most credible online news portal for more news stories. Stay for the law coming up next with Samson Ladi Ayenene.